You're sitting in your house right now with the lights on, the refrigerator humming, and food sitting on a grocery store shelf that is less than 48 hours from empty if the trucks stop rolling. But let me ask you something uncomfortable. If the grid died tonight, would your expensive gear actually make you competent, or just make you broke with nicer pockets? Because back in the 1970s, people didn't prep for clicks. They prepped because nuclear sirens, oil shocks, inflation, civil unrest, and institutional failure were not abstract entertainment. They were dinner table conversations with a bad aftertaste. And buried in that era is one of the most brutally practical survival manuals ever produced. Nuclear War Survival Skills by Crescent Kearney. Not glossy, not fashionable, not sponsored by a backpack company that thinks rugged means orange zippers. This thing came out of a world where survival advice had to survive contact with physics. It was tested, argued over, built with cheap materials, and written for ordinary people who might have to improvise under pressure. That is exactly why modern preppers need to rediscover it. Subscribe if you're tired of survival theater and want the dirty little skill set underneath the costume. Drop a comment with the oldest survival book you own, because paper doesn't need a password, a charger, or permission from a dead cell tower. Let's get tactical. Here's the first lesson the 1970s understood better than modern prepping culture. Simplicity beats fantasy. Kearney was not writing for influencers with climate-controlled gear rooms. He was writing for families with shovels, doors, boards, plastic bags, buckets, blankets, dirt, and a very rude deadline. Modern content loves the perfect loadout. The 70s manual loved the ugly solution that works. That difference matters because collapse doesn't care how photogenic your kit looks on a pegboard. Take shelter. Most people hear nuclear survival and imagine secret government bunkers, giant vault doors, and billionaires disappearing underground like frightened moles with better accountants. Kearney taught the opposite. Protection is geometry, mass, distance, and time. Fallout protection is not magic. It is dense material between you and radioactive dust outside. Earth, concrete, books, water containers, packed boxes, anything with mass becomes a shield when you understand placement. That is the lost mindset. Modern preppers ask, what can I buy? The old manual asks, what can I convert in 30 minutes with what is already here? And before someone in the back starts yelling, no, this does not make you invincible. Nothing makes you invincible. It gives you better odds, and in a real crisis, better odds are not a small thing. They are the entire game. Now let's talk about ventilation, because this is where the old manuals were savage. They understood that a shelter without air movement becomes a miserable box of breath, heat, fear, and bad decisions. So instead of selling you a $1,000 system, they showed people how to move air with improvised pumps and basic mechanics. That is engineering literacy. Not trust the product. Not click the link. Understand airflow, pressure, heat buildup, and human limits, then build the simplest thing that solves the problem. Modern prepping has lost patience for boring fundamentals. Everybody wants solar generators, thermal optics, and encrypted radios. Cool toys, sure, but if you cannot keep a cramped room breathable, congratulations, you built a panic closet. Water is another place where the 70s mindset punches modern content right in the teeth. Today, people collect filters like trading cards. The manual era taught redundancy. Store it, protect it, treat it, ration it, and understand contamination instead of worshiping one magic straw. A filter is useful. A filter is not a religion. If your plan depends on one plastic tube arriving from an online warehouse, your plan has the structural integrity of wet cardboard. The old school approach is layered. Keep sealed water. No nearby sources. Have containers. No basic disinfection. Know how to settle dirty water. Strain sediment, and avoid chemical hazards you cannot boil away. Notice the difference. Modern prepping often turns fear into shopping. 70s preparedness turned fear into procedures. Procedures do not look sexy, but procedures keep you from improvising while thirsty and stupid. Food gets the same treatment. Modern preppers love freeze-dried buckets with cheerful labels promising 25 years of beige survival. The old manuals pushed calories, storage stability, cooking realities, and the ugly truth that food you cannot prepare under emergency conditions is decoration. 1 pound of dry grain can carry serious calories, but only if you can store it, protect it from pests, cook it, digest it, and make it tolerable enough that your household does not stage a morale collapse by day 6. The old books cared about fuel because uncooked food is a trap. They cared about cooking because smoke, smell, and waste heat all matter. They cared about sanitation because nothing humbles a tough guy faster than bad hygiene in a confined space. That is another thing modern prepping lost: unglamorous systems. Waste disposal, hand washing, sleep rotation, record keeping, quiet boredom, the stuff that does not make a dramatic thumbnail but prevents your shelter from turning into a petri dish with opinions. And then there is measurement. Carney's world did not just say, "Radiation bad, hide now." It tried to give ordinary citizens ways to understand danger using improvised instruments, field observation, and rules of thumb. That matters because panic loves ignorance. If you cannot measure, estimate, or compare, every rumor becomes a monster. The crowd runs because someone shouted, and half of them run directly into the thing they should have avoided. The modern internet gives you infinite opinions and almost no calibration. The old survival manual gave you a framework: observe, calculate, wait, verify, then move. That is boring until boring is the only thing keeping you alive. Now here is the kicker most people miss. The 1970s survival mindset was not about being a lone wolf. It was about neighborhoods, households, roles, labor, and shared knowledge. Modern prepper culture loves the fantasy of one hard man with a rifle and a cabin. Nice movie poster. Terrible civilization. Real survival needs someone to haul water, cook, repair, watch kids, monitor radio, track supplies, treat injuries, and tell the loudest idiot to sit down before he wastes everyone's energy. The old manuals assumed you might have to teach ordinary people fast. That is powerful. A good survival plan is not the one only you understand. It is the one your exhausted spouse, your teenager, or your neighbor can execute while you are busy solving problem number 17. That is what today's community has lost: teachability. Too much prepping has become identity. The 70s material treated preparedness like public knowledge, not a secret handshake for men named after calibers. But we are not worshiping the past here. Some old advice needs updating. Materials changed, medicine changed, communications changed, and modern disaster planning has better data in some areas. Nostalgia is not a strategy. It is just a sepia-toned way to make mistakes twice. The move is not to live in the 1970s. The move is to steal the durable thinking. Keep the physics, keep the improvisation, keep the checklists, keep the local planning, and replace outdated details with verified modern guidance. Here is your homework. And yes, I said homework, because survival without homework is cosplay with snacks. Find a public domain copy of Nuclear War Survival Skills. Print the core chapters that matter to your risks. Put them in a binder, because a binder does not crash during a software update. Then walk your home like a hostile inspector. Where is the best protected interior space? What can add mass around it? Where does air come from? Where does waste go? Where is water stored? Where does cooking happen if the kitchen becomes useless? Run one ugly drill. Not a fantasy weekend with matching patches. One evening. Power off. Phones on airplane mode. Cook one simple meal. Move water manually. Use only printed instructions. Watch how fast your beautiful plan starts coughing up weak points. This is where the forgotten manual becomes a mirror. It shows whether you are prepared or just entertained by preparedness. And that mirror is not polite. Good. Polite mirrors get people in trouble. The dark truth is that modern preppers have more gear than any generation before them, but often less confidence in raw competence. The 70s crowd had less technology and more willingness to build, test, fail, adjust, and teach. That is the part worth resurrecting. You can keep scrolling for another perfect loadout from a guy standing in front of a truck that costs more than your house. Or you can open a new tab, find the manual, print the useful parts, and start turning your home into a system instead of a storage unit with anxiety. Map your shelter space, inventory your water, test your cooking, build your binder, assign household roles, practice one drill before you buy one more shiny object that promises courage in a cardboard box. Because when the lights go out, the algorithm is not coming. The affiliate link is not coming. The comment section experts are not coming. What shows up is what you already know, what you already practiced, and what you were humble enough to learn from people who took survival seriously before it became content. The forgotten lesson of the 1970s is simple. Don't just own survival. Understand it. Subscribe if you are part of the tiny fraction that still believes competence beats costume, and drop a comment with the first page you are printing. Class dismissed.